Hi, it's Gab, and today I'm reviewing 127 Hours, a new Danny Boyle picture based on a true story of a young man named Aaron Ralston who was an outdoorsman, just a young dude who used to like to go rock climbing in Utah and go off in his little sojourns for the day and not tell anybody where he was going and have a light backpack with minimal supplies in it and just thinking he'd have a little fun. And one day, he unfortunately fell into a crevasse. A boulder pinned his right arm, and thus is a story that many of us have heard about. It's been widely documented, and the gentleman Aaron wrote a book about it. And now there's a Danny Boyle film starring James Franco. 127 hours refers to the amount of time that Aaron was trapped in this predicament, and the majority of the film, a bit of it leads up to it, and a bit of it shows the aftermath. But the majority of the film is definitely about this guy in this crack and what he does to get out of it. As we, I think, all know. If you don't know, then you're probably not interested in this movie. So I'm going to tiptoe around spoilers, but not really. But we'll get to that in a couple minutes. The main turning point of the story in the film. First of all, we've got Danny Boyle and we've got James Franco, and this is a really great combination, I think, that to capture this story. James Franco seems to very believably portray this character. I've never met the guy. I've seen him in some interviews, Aaron Ralston. Physical resemblance may be minimal, but I think the character and the spirit are probably very much on the nose. He's in his late 20s. He's adventuresome. He's independent. So he's got charm, he's got hubris and ego, he's got ingenuity. The person Aaron is an engineer, and so all of this comes to play while he's stuck and trying to extricate himself. Of course, many different moods and emotions play out, and James Franco captures them very nicely. Of course, on his face, not being able to use his body, although there is oddly a lot of physicality with the rest of his body involved as well. He's literally physically trying to get himself out of the situation. A million things are going through his mind. So there's lots of things going on, surprisingly, for something that's so static, so stuck in such a small area where the story is taking place, literally. There are incidents of hallucination, flashbacks, all different elements. So visually, going about into the Danny Boyle aspect, visually there's lots more going on than you would think to see with this story. Danny Boyle implements a lot of visual techniques, television commercial looks and music video looks, a lot of good music too, which we've pretty much come to expect from Danny Boyle, and he does it very well. So there's a lot of visually interesting and entertaining elements that enhance the experience, help you sympathize with what the character is going through, and just as a movie viewer, just make it more entertaining than you might expect. So all of those elements, you really couldn't ask for anything better, and you couldn't ask for a better true story. I mean, this is life and death. It all comes down to this, and what he has to finally do. Aaron is driven to do to extricate himself, which, as I think we all know, is that he amputates part of his arm, the part that is stuck. The part where the hand is, and that scene has gotten quite a bit of notoriety because ever since this film made the film festival circuit. I unfortunately wasn't able to see it at the Toronto International Film Festival, but I think that's maybe where it premiered, and there was immediately lots of reports of people fainting and mass hysteria over the amputation scene. I don't scoff at that. If you are sensitive to those sorts of things, you will not be able to handle that scene. It's very graphic. It's not gratuitous, but it's done in a very realistic way. They don't pussyfoot around it. They show you what he had to do. I think the time is compressed in terms of how long it took the real character to amputate his arm and what we see on screen, but you see what you need to see to understand. And so if you are faint at heart, as Dad could not go to this movie with me for precisely that reason. He chickened out of that aspect of it, and I myself was squirming a bit, but I was able to handle it, and it's important because that really is the whole heart of the story is what it took this character, and of course the viewer imagining what it would or would not take within yourself if you were in such a predicament. So it really draws you into that moment, and it's very interesting to see, worth seeing. And the rest of the film, it's not just, oh, when's he going to cut off his arm? I mean, it's a story that all the whole timeline matters, and is done in an interesting way. I have to say there was maybe one or two parts where I don't want to use the word bored, but because you know what this is all leading up to, it taints you a little bit in the sense that you are sort of like, okay, well, when's he going to get to that part? There is a bit of that. There was for me anyway, but not to a detrimental effect. So really all the great elements are there: the directing, the acting, the cinematography. It's just an interesting story done really well. My one drawback, I think for me, not a drawback, but something that makes it less than a fabulous film, is that I'm not sure how much it's going to stay with me over the months, years to come, reflecting on the year, the movies of this year. The story is basically a simple one. I mean, that seems like not fair to say about such a life and death true story, but it's this one everyday guy. He's not aggrandized or martyred in any way, and he does what he does because of this crazy situation, and that's it. I mean, that doesn't sound fair to say even as I'm saying it, but I'm thinking of another similar movie like Into the Wild, and there's other movies you could compare this to if you wanted to, Alive and whatnot, but he doesn't have an existential crisis beyond the situation that he finds himself in, and there's a happy ending, and all of that is a bit too neat for me. I think if there'd been a bit more emotional levels, it may stick with me longer than I think it's going to. There's some very deep, touching moments in the moment, but for me, it's not a story that carries a greater message beyond, if you're going off hiking, tell someone where you're going. I mean, pretty much. It does make you question what you could do if you were pushed to the limit, but that's a pretty trite sort of Hollywood technique. What would you do in this instance? So there's nothing uniquely new there. I'd have to really think about it some more. I just saw the film, but that's my first instinct, is that it's not going to stay with me as much as I maybe thought it would have, or that other similar movies would have. Other than that, very entertaining, very interesting. I would definitely recommend you seek out this film for any or all of those elements that I've mentioned. Extremely well done. Now it's time for a November DVD giveaway here at Gab and Dad. So in honor of Danny Boyle, great director, why not? And a good movie about young men's adventures. I've got The Beach, which is a Danny Boyle film from a few years back. Of course, Leonardo DiCaprio is the charming, egotistical man in this case, going on an adventure that goes wrong, to say the least. I don't think it's a true story, but who knows? So The Beach, good movie. And if you'd like to win this DVD, you don't even have to leave your living room. It's very safe. Just be a Gab and Dad subscriber, and a winner will be chosen at the end of the month. Thanks for watching.